This is Onyi Odunukwe. I'm on the Real Jason Duncan show, The Root of All Success. We were talking about exiting without exiting. Loved the experience and much appreciated being on the show.
Welcome to the root of all success with the real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of The Root of All Success, the real Jason Duncan. The real Jason Duncan.
Welcome back to another episode. It's your pal, the real Jason Duncan. I'm really glad you're here. I have got a guy on the show today that I met through Instagram. I love Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me right now at the real Jason Duncan. Let's connect. Send me a DM. Let me know you heard the show. But I met this guy as I meet dozens of other people on Instagram. I saw a video that somebody did of him. He's sitting in his vehicle, very expensive vehicle, which we'll talk about on the show a little bit. He's sitting in his vehicle and somebody's interviewing about how he created his business. And what he said caught my attention because what he said was, I did it by not being the operator of the business. I did it by, and he didn't use the phrase, but he said, I did it by exit without exiting. And that's my thing, of course. But as he described it, that's what he was dealing with. That's what he did. And so I immediately sent him a DM and said, hey, dude, I know we don't know each other, but what you said in that video was amazing. That's exactly what I write about in my book. That's what I talk about. I would love to have you on my show. And so today I have him on the show. His name is Onyi Odunukwe, and I hope I'm saying that right. Onyi Odunukwe. He lives in Dallas, and he has built a phenomenally, amazingly successful business in his few short years on this planet. He's a very young guy still, and I'm going to talk in the show about how he goes from a Honda to a Ferrari. So please help me welcome Onyi to the show. Hey, man, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here.
Awesome day. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
So as I said in the intro, the way we got connected is, I spent a lot of time on Instagram, and I saw a reel that somebody had recorded. It wasn't even yours. It was somebody else's reel talking to you. I think you were driving, if I remember the video right, you were driving a Bentley. Do you have a Bentley? Does that ring?
It's a Rolls Royce Cullinan.
Okay, so Bentley and Rolls Royce, for people that don't own them, they look the same. So I don't own one, so obviously I don't know. So you're driving a Rolls Royce Cullinan, which is their SUV, and somebody's interviewing you through the window about, how you made your money, and I thought the way you talked about how you built your businesses to run without you, I said, dude, this guy and I are working from the same playbook. Because I teach exit without exiting, like my t-shirt says. And that's how you built your business. So I reached out to you, and now here we are having the conversation. You're in Dallas, I'm in Nashville. So man, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, how you got started as an entrepreneur. Kind of start there, and then I want to kind of dig in a little bit deeper about your success.
Awesome. I appreciate it. So just turned 36 a couple weeks ago. How I started, I went to college at the University of Arkansas and had an opportunity to, basically get into a supplement franchise. At the time, I was an amateur bodybuilder, and a lady wanted to sell her, supplement franchise. So obviously I didn't have any money. I was 21 and convinced her to owner's finance it to me over like 5 years. Did really well with it and ended up basically being able to pay it off, within like 18 months. So I went to go open a second location. Second location was too large. Didn't really know what to do with the space between like a fitness studio or something else, and randomly decided like, hey, I'll do a tanning salon in the space with the supplements. Because if you care about what you look like, the demographic of where I was at is like 97% white. So it made sense. And tanning took off, ended up selling the supplement store the day that I like retired from like bodybuilding in 2016. So I just went forward with the tanning.
So the supplements, what kind of supplements were they? Just vitamins and that type of
It's
thing,
just
or
like a
what?
GNC basically.
Okay. So you were selling you had a supplement store like a GNC, a competitor to them. And so you went into tanning only because the space was too big for a supplement store and you had room to put tanning beds in. And
Exactly.
you're in a mostly white area, which white people are primarily the customers of tanning salons, I would imagine. So so white people are wanting to go tanning. You're like, hey, here's an opportunity. Let's open up a tanning salon. And that was in 2016. Is that what you said?
No, no, no. And that was in 2020 or 2009.
Oh,
But
oh nine.
2016 is when I sold the supplement store and focused strictly on tanning.
Okay, so from 9 to 16, so for 7 years, you were doing a little bit of both,
Yes.
and then the tanning just kind of took off, and you said, "Hey, the supplement thing, I don't need to do that anymore." When you exited the supplement company, was that a pretty good exit, or was it pretty much just unloading it and taking it and transferring your cash over to the tanning stuff?
No, I mean I sold it, but it was it wasn't like a super profitable exit. Supplement stores are saturated, and it's also retail. I'm big on I anytime anybody asks me for advice, I always say never retail, always services. So retail is just we did well because I was Mr. Arkansas bodybuilding champ at the time, and that was how the supplement store was called Mr. O's Nutrition. I was Mr. O. So it's kind of like went hand in hand. But whenever I decided I was going to retire from bodybuilding in 2016, I just knew that we no longer had the marketing there because the reason why I did well was because I was actively bodybuilding.
So your bodybuilding and the supplement kind of worked hand in hand, so that worked. Tanning in a way also kind of works in that industry a little bit, but the supplements definitely right there. Congrats, by the way. I didn't know about the Mr. Arkansas thing, so that's
Yeah, I appreciate it.
that's kind of cool. So what's it like being the bodybuilding champion and you're have Mr. Arkansas? What's that feel like?
It was just, I mean, it was cool. I mean, it's different. You'd be surprised how many, bodybuilding fans there are. So, you like going somewhere and people recognize you, whatever. But, it was cool. I mean, it was just a goal that I had. And, since I was, since probably 2008 when I started bodybuilding and ended up winning in 2015 and 16. And, so no, it was nice.
So you still trying to keep it all tight, high and tight, still working out all the time?
No, I actually have not lifted weights in 7 years. So I just strictly do cardio, and that's it.
So cardio, what kind of cardio is you doing on a regular basis?
Stair stepper, 45 minutes. 4 to 5 days a week. That's all I do.
Wow. And you do that at your house?
I just bought one for my house, but I go to the gym.
Okay. So Mr. Arkansas hasn't lifted weights in 7 years. That gives us all hope. We can all look good and be successful, and we don't have to lift weights every day. That's good to know. So you sold the supplement company and you went all in on tanning. By the time you went those 7 years you were doing tanning, how many stores had you opened up in those 7 years, the glow tanning from '09 to 16?
So I had four at the time. So it took me from two. We officially opened in 2000 February 2010. Started building in 2009. So I didn't actually open location number two to 2015 because at the time I had five different businesses. So I had like a laser removal company, a marketing company, the supplement store, the tanning, and then also a limo company. So I had five businesses. Tanning was just like one of the five, not really like so much of a focus. And then I just kind of, realized, you become, a slave to many, master of none, and really just kind of limit my focus on one or two things. So I ended up selling off, a few things and limited my focus just to the supplement store and the tanning. And then 2016, I sold the supplement store and just went 100% on tanning.
Okay, so the tanning stores, did you name it Glow Tanning to begin with, or did that get
Yeah,
rebranded?
yeah, yeah. I named it, designed it in
All right,
2009.
so Glow Tanning, you have one store for 5 years. then you had a second store, then you went all in on tanning, and you have 75 locations across 13 states now. So I imagine that happened gradually. So when did you go from one to two to two to four and four to whatever? Tell me
Yeah.
about how that growth happened.
Yeah. So it was, one, 2010, two, 2015, by 2016, it's about four, 2018, seven. I actually sold uh, four, five of the seven. Playing, I had the biggest company in the world in our industry um, came out and was like, "Hey, we want to buy you," and I said I wasn't interested, and they wrote a check that you can't say no to. So I was planned on actually exiting completely. Only reason I didn't sell the other two stores is because I just opened those stores within a year, and it didn't make financial sense based on the 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 X, the EBITDA uh, X amount that they were willing to give. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just build those stores up and then sell it to them. And then I ended up, because of Uncle Sam and taxes and all that, I ended up saying, hey, I'll kind of 1031 exchange it into more salons to avoid, paying the taxes on what I just got paid, and ended up buying, um, you know, like 8 locations in Oklahoma City. And then from there, so that was end of 2018. So basically 2019 until now is literally like two to 75 plus.
And are these all owned by you, or are you franchise, or is this now officially a franchise?
Especially franchise. So we started franchise 2019. I own a good amount, but the majority are franchise locations. So that's why I said for 75 plus. Some people were like, "Oh, why don't you just say the exact amount?" Well, because I don't know. Because we're literally like we're about to open 2 stores in Nashville this year, where you're at. So it's literally like we're constantly, I negotiate every single buyout that we do for buying another company out or whatever. Right now I'm negotiating like 20 leases, so it's very like fluid. We can have 100 locations in 6 months. We can be at 80 89 locations in 6 months. So I really don't know how many locations we have. I just know 75 plus.
Yeah. So now, so where were you? So in 2019, you said you started doing the franchising. I can imagine, based on what I know about franchise law, is that was not easy to do. So walk me through how you went from being the sole proprietor of or LLC, however the structure was, but you were the guy owning these, and then you decided I'm going to franchise it and let let mom and pops or individuals own this. Was that pretty difficult, and how did that work?
Yeah, so if you go to like the technical side, there's a lot of things like obviously you go from having your brand, you have to you get a row or trademarked, um, and then you have the franchise attorneys and you have to create your FDD and all that stuff. So that's one part of it, which really any smart person could probably figure out. Then there's the other part of it, which is getting something systems and processes in place to make sure that franchisees are successful and then also have something that you're actually selling, right? So like those are your customers. So it's like, okay, so what is it that they're getting, and why can they do it better with you than they would be able on their own? So like what are they paying you for, right? So creating those systems and processes, which we already had, those things in place, but it's actually making sure that's efficient, effective, and as automated as possible. And then now you're dealing with a bunch of different personalities and everything else. So, for us, every single franchisee of ours is happy, which for as a franchise, that's pretty much unheard of. But we've actually really limited our growth. So we have about 1,000 applications a year prior to the last like month, and we would only accept like 10 out of 1,000. Probably 2/3 of them aren't don't even qualify financially, but then the other 1/3 is you have a bunch of people who are super high net worth individuals and they have the money, but for us we need an operator. So And what we figured out, which we could talk about later on our employee program called Own Your Future, but you have to have an operator. So we've just basically turned people down because it's like, if it's just about money, I would have 100 locations myself personally. But it's not just about money. It's about, making sure that brand integrity and having an actual good operator so that it runs the way it's supposed to run.
So let's talk about that, because I think that's really interesting. So I love the idea of this Own Your Future. You got to have an operator, because you figure out how to get operators in place so that you could scale and be the Sweatpant Millionaire. I love that, by the way, the Sweatpant. Follow him on Instagram at Sweatpant_millionaire, Sweatpant_millionaire. But I love what I heard you say in that video that I saw. The guy was asking you these questions. You're like, here's how I scaled. I have to make sure that I'm not the business. I'm not the one running everything. Somebody else got to do it so that I can go grow the asset, build this asset in the business. So who was your first key operator to come in and help take the load off of you doing everything?
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. I mean, every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation, improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub, and that's DUBB. What Dub does, I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. But they have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. And Dub is built for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting, anything you need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. 40 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had your business in the Yellow Pages. You remember those things? And 30 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a door-to-door salesman. 20 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a website. And today, you're not in business unless you're doing social media content. Am I right? Social media content. Social media content in the form of like micro content, which is 30 to 60 second spots on Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts. That's the way business is done. As a matter of fact, that may be how you found out about this podcast or me as a business coach. This medium that we're using today to communicate what we do is vitally important. And just recording yourself isn't enough. You've got to do it right. And my friends over at Story do it right. And one of the problems with doing it wrong is that you sit around thinking, well, what the heck am I going to record? What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Like, I don't know what to talk about. Well, Story takes all of that away from you. Stop wasting time trying to come up with content, because Story will send you a video prompt on what to record. You can pick the categories you want to record in, whether it's real estate, entrepreneurship, finance, relationship, leadership, life insurance. It could be anything. Don't waste time on that. And by the way, if you're not confident in talking on video, or if the video editing portion takes up way too much of your time, Story will edit the videos to perform well on social media. They add the subtitles, the pop-ups, the zoom cuts. They remove all the filler words like and and. They remove the awkward pauses. And then they take that video and post it for you. They write the captions, they add the relevant hashtags, and they post it on the platforms that you care about the most. It's exactly what you need to be in business today and to be successful at it. So if you want to learn how to do social media the way the influencers do, you need to go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. And that's story with 2 Y's. Why? Because they're awesome. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. That's STORYY for 10% off your first 3 months to try Story out. You're going to thank me later.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Yeah. So when I had one location, it was this sorority girl called Tyler Baumgartner, who was, a Tridel, and she, super business minded. Just kind of started off as just a normal employee, and we ended up scaling from 1 to 4 locations. And she was the first person who actually made me realize, okay, cool. You have to kind of, step back, let other people take charge a little bit. At that time, I was still a, micromanager in a sense. So, I was guest services. We have a guest services department with 50 people that answer every single phone call that goes in the stores. I was guest services at the time. I was, inventory. I was HR. I was every single part of the business essentially. And then I, started to realize, okay, cool, I got to split these up, start bringing people in. And then probably 2019 truly is when I kind of really began to really master these things, because it's you can't do that for the size of the company that we were becoming, because you go from two locations to, I want to say 2000. So 2018 from 2 locations, 2019 we're probably at 19. So, it's just not possible. So that's kind of it. And then right now, my right hand is Danae, and she, really kind of allowed me to kind of step back, and I kind of went hand in hand with her, kind of taught her over, several years how things are supposed to run, and then able to kind of step back.
So when did when did things really change for you?
So I would say there's different levels to it, right? So I would say, my head, head down, not doing anything, living very extremely modest, no vacations, no, pretty much, as if I'm on welfare, basically. That's how I was living from 2010 to 2016. And then I kind of look up at 2016 and I'm like, okay, you're actually you're a millionaire, and you're driving a Honda Accord, and I went out and bought a Ferrari.
You went from a Honda to a Ferrari?
Yeah, I went out and bought a Ferrari. The house I was living in cost less than the Ferrari, right? So I just kind of was okay, cool. I was 28 at the time. So I just, went on and did that. And then I bought a pretty nice house in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I was living at the time. And, that was good. Cash flow was really good, everything else. And then 2018, I sold those stores, multiple 7 figures, and, bought the big house, with the guest house on 5 acres in Arkansas. And also, bought a Bentley, and, kind of started, traveling the world and, doing those type of things or whatever. That's 2018. And then kind of, reinvest a lot of money as well, buying all these stores or whatever. And then I would say probably the last couple of years, probably 2020 is when 2021 was when now the cash flow is extremely crazy. And now I'm diversifying my money even outside of what I'm doing, as well. And there's nothing that I want to do that I can't do. So now it's a whole different level. Back then it's it's an achievement to, when I bought the Ferrari, that was an achievement, right? Okay, cool. I'm able to do something for myself. Now those things don't move the needle in terms of how you, if I went out and bought another Ferrari, I wouldn't even tomorrow I wouldn't feel any better about myself, if that makes any sense.
From Honda to Ferrari. Well, here's what I think is interesting, an interesting perspective. And this is an encouragement for the listeners, is that if you're an entrepreneur and a business owner and you're doing things right, obviously, Ani, you were doing things right. I have a story very similar to that. I was doing things right, and at some point, you look up and you have the same realization that you had. Oh, I'm a millionaire, because people think. When, I know that pre-millionaire status for most people, people think, well, millionaires, they have $1 million of cash sitting in their bank account. They got $1 million of cash sitting at their in a sock under the mattress or something. That's not what, when you become a millionaire, that's not really what it is. It's asset. It starts with assets, and then the cash comes later. But going from, like, as this is called, from Honda to Ferrari, in that moment of realization, whoa, wait a minute, I have millions of dollars of assets in these companies. It's time to start reaping the rewards. But I would think, and you could tell me if I'm right or not, I would think that probably it was that moment of realization that also made you go, I can't be the guy anymore. I've got to get, as you said, Danae, and I forget the other lady's name.
Tyler and Danae. Yep.
Oh yeah, so you've got these people. I've got to rely on them to build this thing up. Because again, going back to that video, I wish I could find that video. And were you tagged as a collaborator in that video? If you know the one I'm talking about.
No, I think they tagged me in the caption.
So you're just tagged, but you're not a collaborator. So I need to go find that video and watch it again, because I was really impressed about that. But I would say people go follow Sweatpant Millionaire on Instagram. Check out what he's saying, because he does have the nice things, and he is being able to do. There's nothing he can't do that he doesn't want to do financially. But he couldn't have ever accomplished this if he just stayed the operator. And that's the moral of this story, right?
Yep, absolutely. And the people posted that was School of Hard Knocks, which they you just go interview business owners, and they came to Dallas, so they interviewed a bunch of people, and on their YouTube video, it's kind of crazy because they went to Highland Park Village, which is top 10 richest cities in America, and this shopping area, and they saw the CEO of Frito-Lay's just walking around, the OCO of Neiman Marcus just walking around. Dallas has a lot of money, and it's a lot of very unassuming people that you wouldn't assume are anybody, and they were able to get those interviews organically. But when it comes to to that, it's kind of one of those things where it's it's super important to be able to put people in positions and make sure that they feel a sense of ownership, right? Whether it's actual ownership or just or just people who take pride in what they do, right? And being able to step out. And I always tell people, I'm like, hey, listen, somebody says that they're a business owner, but 97% of business owners are not actual business owners. You're really sole proprietors. Because if you are, anytime I see somebody that says Instagram will say entrepreneur under your name. But if they actually put in their tag entrepreneur, typically it's a lash tech, and nothing wrong with lash techs or whatever, but they don't have a business, because a business is something that you can buy and sell. If you're a lash tech, what are you selling? You can sell leftover lashes or your chair. But if you're the person who's actually doing the lashes for every single customer you have, there's literally nothing to sell. You can maybe sell your client list, but more than likely your customers are going to say, nope, I only want you to touch my lashes. I don't want anybody else to. So you're not actually a business. You're just a sole proprietor, right? So a lot of people are working in their business, not on their business. And it's how do you, take yourself out of it? And that's a very difficult thing for most people to learn how to do. So kind of like what your shirt says, exited without exiting. So it's how do you exit yourself, right? And still retain, ownership of your business and the benefit, because you're the one who's built it to where it's at, and getting yourself to that position.
Man, you're speaking my language, dude. This is, I know we don't know each other, but this is my book, Exit Without Exiting. This is what I wrote. I wrote this book to teach people how to do what you're doing, and to see somebody doing it at the level that you're doing it, man. Just congrats, man. I'm so happy for you. I'm glad that we're having this conversation on the show today, and I want to figure out how we can collaborate, because your message needs to be told to more people as a place to encourage people. I mean, just think about it. Some bodybuilder somewhere can look at you and go, that dude went from bodybuilding to multimillionaire. He went from a Honda to a Ferrari. Like, how do I do that? And they can't do it by being the operator. That's the whole point. That's the moral of the story. You got to operate it for a while, but that's not going to lead you to the lifestyle that you truly want. You got to get out of that. What I tell people, Only, is that you got to get out of owner operator and become owner investor. And once you make that transition from owner operator to owner investor, that's when life starts changing. And that's what I've done too. You still have these other companies. You had laser hair removal, marketing, limo. Do you still have any of those too?
Um, no and yes. So like laser and marketing, actually, my brother owns. My brother owns by himself. And then for the limo service and everything else, I actually just started back up a a chauffeur service in Dallas because I have a personal driver, and because I just kind of realized, like, so I've had one for a couple of years, and I just kind of realized my corporate office is in Oklahoma City, and I realized I spend so much time driving sometimes, and I fly a lot, probably 200 flights a year. So I spend so much time traveling, driving, and everything else. And it's just like it's way more effective. I can get way more done by letting somebody else drive. So I have like a Metris van, a Sprinter, the Cullinan and all that. All of these are made for you to be driven in. So I was able to just kind of like delegate out even the driving part of it. And then because I like cars and everything else, I just ordered like the Maybach. I was like, okay, well, I can actually make it to where I can have these things pay for themselves, right?
Yep.
I don't care about making any money, but I have the driver, I have the cars, so I just created a website, basically created a business. It's called DFW Executive Transportation, and they can basically just book. It's only with the driver because I don't want anybody driving my cars. So it's only with the driver, and help pay for my driver, help pay for the cars, and it kind of just is a wash.
That's great, man. Yeah, I remember there were several years ago. This is BC, before COVID. I had an office in Memphis, and I was doing a lot of business in Chattanooga as well. And of course, I live in Nashville, and I too was like, man, I'm driving. I'm just spending this time driving. I'm losing productivity time. So I hired a driver to drive me back and forth for a while, and it was great. They would just drive my car. I'd sit in the back seat, laptop. I'd be working, so we'd get 2.5, 3 hours worth of work done. So leveraging out those things that you're already going to be doing to help you. That's great. Well, let me ask you some specific questions while we get ready to finish up the show today. So if you had to isolate all of your success down to one key thing, which I know we've talked about a key thing already about not being an operator, what would that be? If you said, hey, this was the key. I had lots of things that helped me. What's the one key to your success?
Whew, that's hard. Actually, like pinned on my Instagram, I have like my 7 keys to success. But I would say out of those 7, probably I'd have to go with 2.
All right, go give him.
It's hard. It's hard to even go 2, but I would say gratitude, number 1. Number 2, no ego. So I have no ego. People conflate ego and pride. I'm very prideful, but I have no ego. Like, ego is basically thinking that what you think is important, or thinking, essentially like that you're right always. So I always go into things thinking that I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I listen, and I let people kind of like figure things out. And then the only thing that I'm just very much, I'm like radically open minded. So, which is like a Ray Dalio principle, which is one of my top 3 business books. And so it's like only things that I'm not open minded about are things that I've already done, and I know for a fact that I'm right. Outside of that, I never go into anything assuming that I am correct. So I think those, and then number 3 would probably be delegating, which is what we're talking about.
That's right. And that's actually the first thing I talk about in my book. And when I teach my clients is you got to embrace delegation. So I'm glad to hear you say that it's part of your keys to success. Well, how do you define that term, Oni? How do you say this is what success is to me?
Yeah, so that's super hard. So until probably about a year ago, if somebody would say, "Oh, how did you become successful?" Whatever, I'll say I don't even consider that. And maybe I was like being humble or fake humble or whatever, right? And saying, no, I don't consider myself successful, whatever. But obviously, if I said that now, people would be like, shut the hell up, obviously, whatever. But success is different, right? So for every single person, some people, success is monetary. And at the beginning, success for me was monetary, right? So it's like, so then once I achieved the level of success where monetarily I can do whatever I want, it's like, okay, well, what do you still consider success? So I think success to me truly is freedom and just doing whatever I want to do. So like, it's what, people have asked me, like, what does Sweatpant Millionaire mean? And that means I don't dress up for anybody. If I go to a meeting, I used to just go a Mr. O shirt and sweatpants and slides. And I don't care who I was meeting with. I can meet with the president of the University of Arkansas. Don't matter. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to show up how I am. And the way I've always looked at it too is like, and the realization that I came to that is several things. It's like, I'm not tap dancing for anybody. That's one. And then number two is any person I meet with, for the most part, previously, like now, I meet, like, say with you, but any person I met with previously, I mean, they work for me. Like, when I say they work for me, I'm saying if I meet with you and you're a plumber, if I pay you, you work for me, right?
Yep.
So the only people that I work for are my customers, my franchisees. So it's like, if you work for me, what am I dressing up for you for? so I just, I'm kind of, so that was just my philosophy on it, is like being able to do whatever I want, go wherever I want, not be constructed or constricted to any one area. And that's really it. That to me is success. If I made $10 million a year and I had to go to the office, that wouldn't be success. I'd rather make $40,000 a year and not have to do that.
Right.
So to me, that's what success is.
Beautiful, man. Now, so based on that definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
Based on that definition, absolutely.
All right. I love it. I love it. So now let's finish up with a piece of advice. I want you to kind of look deep into the camera, act like you're talking directly to the listeners, and I want you to give them that one thing that they need to do if they want to become successful like the Sweatpant Millionaire. What's one piece of advice you have for them?
Really kind of going back to the keys that we talked about. So, don't be greedy. 100% of nothing is still nothing. Learn to delegate, no ego, gratitude, live in the moment, but also plan for the future. Those would be the things that I would say.
I love it, man. Well, listen, Onyi, congrats on your phenomenal success. You got a big head start in life for people that are looking at this. I didn't get started as an entrepreneur until I was in my late 30s. So I'm sitting here looking at you going, dude, man, what happened to me? Like, why did I not get into this stuff? So congratulations on what you've accomplished. Congratulations on continuing to build a successful empire with Glow Tanning. So people can go check it out at Glow Tanning. It's GLOTANNING.com, glowtanning.com. Maybe you want to become a franchisee. Maybe you want to look at helping yourself become free, and then also helping Onyi continue to build his empire. And I think those are two things that help one another get to where we want to go. So thank you so much for being on the show, man. It's such an honor and a pleasure to know you, and hope our paths will cross again real soon. So thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Man, there you have it. A very successful entrepreneur sharing his story, going from Mr. Arkansas to Mr. Millionaire to Sweatpant Millionaire. Follow him on Instagram at Sweatpant_millionaire. But I'm going from Honda to Ferrari. This is the option that you have as an entrepreneur. You can do this, but I'm telling you, just like he said, if you had to show up every day and work 40 hours a week, doesn't matter how much money you made, is it really worth it? Don't you want to spend your money on the lifestyle that you want? Like, that's what Exit Without Exiting provides. And I know, again, he didn't go through my program, but he did it on his own. He did what we're talking about. One of his keys was delegation, which is what I talk about in my book right here, Exit Without Exiting. You can go get a copy of this at therealjasonduncan.com/book. So go check it out. It's an investment that you can make into your future to learn how to live the lifestyle that Onyi lived, and that I live, and that dozens of other of my clients live. This how to get out of being the owner operator, become the owner investor. So go check that out. Make sure you follow Onyi. Go to Sweatpant_Millionaire. And if you're interested in getting into the franchise business, he's got a great franchise with Glow Tanning. Check that out at glotanning.com, glotanning.com. But a big thanks to Onyi for coming on the show. I think he and I are going to be doing some stuff together. We talked post-show before I recorded this, of course, but we talked post-show right after the interview about him coming to Nashville and doing some stuff with me here with some of my clients in the Exeter Club. So if you're interested in doing some more stuff with him directly, once you go apply to be a part of my Exeter Club, are you ready to learn how to do this? Do you want to get your business that place? So if your business is doing around $3 million or more in revenue, and you're a man and you're the founder of that business and you're running that business and you're trying to figure out how to get the heck out of daily operations so that you can go from Honda to Ferrari or whatever you want to drive, then go check out the Exeter Club. That's theexeterclub.com. That's THEEXITER, exeter.com, exeterclub.com. Apply. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if you qualify for membership. Let's get you in, and then you can have some time one-on-one with people just like Onyi that he was on the show today. So again, big thanks to Onyi for being on the show. Thank you for listening to the show, for subscribing, and for leaving those killer reviews. I see some new ones come through. Thank you so much. It means so much to me that you've done this. But make sure you tune in again next time when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, I am the real Jason Duncan, and as always, Jesus is king.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.